Yeah, hello. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Irbad Ibrahim. I'm a consultant from the Republic of Ghana and a very proud African. And today I'm going to share a few words with you. How much do you know Africa? And how much do the youth on this continent collaborate with each other for the long term development and prosperity of this continent? For people who go to the university and they find themselves in a modern languages department. If it is, you know, Arabic you are learning, when it is time for you to do your year abroad, people are interested in going to countries other than African countries. If it is French you are doing, people want to go to France. When in fact, you live in Central Africa, you are in Gabon, you don't know what is happening in the CAR, the Central African Republic. You live in East Africa, you are in Kenya, and there is no collaboration between university student unions and those in Tanzania. You live in Southern Africa, you are in South Africa, you don't know what is happening in Zambia. You live in West Africa, you are a Ghanaian like me, you don't know what is happening in next door Burkina Faso. Before the European Union came, the Organization of African Unity, which is the African Union, had been long in existence for decades. But it's quite sad that today, whatever we do, even if it is a company you are opening, when you want to go international, instead of opening a branch in a next door African country, you want to open a branch in London. You want to open a branch in New York City or Washington, D.C. How much do we know each other as Africans? How much do we collaborate with each other? How much do we get to do exchange of experience, expertise, and ideas as Africans? So the notion that everything that comes from the West is the best, or what is from the West is the best, is a myth. We can change the status quo. Let's begin to merge our efforts to form a synergy that will take this continent to the promised land. You are in a university. You don't know what is happening in other universities in next door African countries. When churches open up branches, they don't open branches in next door African countries. You're an Islamic organization or you're opening a mosque. You open one in your country, the next one you want to open is in London. How much do we engender collaboration and cooperation among ourselves as Africans? You hear slogans come up every now and then. Africa rising. Africa is the future. The next biggest international market is in Africa. Is it all about semantics and slogans? What are we doing on the ground? We talk about a common currency, which we've never been able to achieve. None of the regional blocs has been able to achieve that. In West Africa, we're talking about ECO. It's never seen the light of day. France continues to consolidate and deepen its influence and control over Francophone Africa through a common currency. Regional groupings like ECOWAS, IGAD for Southern Africa, ICAS for Central Africa, SADC for Southern Africa, IGAD for Eastern Africa, ICAS for Central Africa. Show me a single common denominator there is, whether in the economy or in the educational sector. In West Africa, we are lucky. There is WASI at the high school level. There is some semblance of synergy. When you have Gambian students, Sierra Leonean students, Nigerian students, and Ghanaian students sit the same papers, it's refreshing. But beyond the high school, what other forms of collaboration? We have the All African Universities, various unions. Why is it that if the job market in Nigeria is saturated, you can easily come over to the Republic of Ghana, use the certificate you got from ABU, for example, to get a job? Why is it that you can't move from Ghana, University of Ghana, or KNUST, with your certificate to go to the Gambia and readily get a job? Everybody is concentrating on the local job market, and we keep complaining about unemployment, graduate unemployment. Companies are not interested in opening up branches in neighboring, African countries. How many Nigerian companies do you know have branches in Benin? How many Ghanaian companies do you know have branches in Burkina Faso, next door La Cote d'Ivoire, or next door Togo? You open a branch, if you want to go international, the only thing you think about is opening a branch in Europe or in the Americas. Why don't we start small? Instead of acting globally, why don't we start acting regionally? So that we can create a very solid foundation before we spread our tentacles to other parts of the world. Africa rising. Africa is the future. But we can't become the future of the globe if we only end up as hewers of wood and drawers of water. What are we doing to create a synergy at the regional level so that we become strong? We have control of our imports. We have control over the produce we export. We have control over pricing. If not, we'll always be taken advantage of. So let's begin to think in a regional way. If you are a Ghanaian, why don't you become, if you are a scholar and you are living in Ghana, why don't you find out what scholars in Togo are doing? There are professors in Ghana who have never crossed paths with colleague professors, perhaps in the same discipline, from La Cote d'Ivoire. They only do things with people from London. They only do things with professors from the US. Oh, Professor so and so is coming from Washington, D.C. We have a joint venture, joint program. Even our military, when they do drills, you hardly hear that the Ghanaian army and the Togolese army are doing a joint drill. But we do it with American soldiers. We do it with Belgian soldiers. So why don't we begin to act regionally before we act globally? Ghana has got soldiers in the Gambia currently. We have soldiers in northern Mali trying to make peace and keep peace. But is it only during wartime that we should be collaborating overtly for everybody to see? Let's have shuttle diplomacy. How many times do you even hear that the Nigerian president has come to meet his Ghanaian counterpart? Only once in a blue moon. How many times have you heard the Togolese government or Togolese president is going to meet his Beninois counterpart? Only once in a blue moon. But the road from Africa to Washington, D.C., the route from Africa to London is one of, these two are amongst the busiest routes in the world. Why do we have to do things only in London before we succeed? Let the youth begin to see high-level collaboration between neighboring African countries. If you are a Ghanaian president, decide that every fortnight you actually do a breakfast meeting with your Togolese counterparts. Show this on TV. Encourage the youth to collaborate. There are Ghanaian professionals that have lived and worked in Ghana and maybe elsewhere in the world for 5 decades. They've never met their Togolese counterparts in the same field. So is it inferiority complex? Is it as Africans we look down upon each other? Is it that we look down upon what we have? So the time has come for us to create a synergy, collaborate with each other. Let's know what is happening in next door Togo. Even for people's honeymoon, they want to go to Dubai. They want to do it in London. They want to do it in New York. If you propose to a Nigerian, come to Accra to do your honeymoon, or you propose to a Ghanaian, go to Lome to do your honeymoon, they'll feel like, no, I'm not. Is that a trip? A trip is what will take me to London or New York City. It's a mindset issue. It's the mindset of the people we need to begin to change. And when you travel abroad, we do for work and conferences. Apart from living in the hotel and taking a stroll to tour the city, what else do we do when we go abroad? Nothing. You can as well stay in a good 4-star or 5-star hotel and do a good conference in your country or a neighboring country. So let's begin to see exchange programs that will bring about exchange of expertise and ideas amongst the youth on this continent. And let's not think before you make it, before an idea is deemed viable, it has to come from the Western Hemisphere. It has to come from the West, the Northern Hemisphere. Let's begin to appreciate the things that are happening in next door African countries. Let's travel to those countries. There are ministries of youth and ministries of regional reintegration. Let's see some more collaboration. I'm a Ghanaian. I want to know what is happening with the youth in Togo. I want to know what is happening with students in Guinea. Even news. When we read news, after reading the local news, when we say we are going to read international news, we read the news from America and the UK. What is more international than what is happening in the next door African country? So I want to see Ghana's television stations have a bureau in each of the neighboring countries, bringing to the doorstep of the Ghanaian people what is happening in Burkina Faso, what is happening in Togo, what is happening in La Côte d'Ivoire, what are the business opportunities there are in those countries. How can we increase brotherly collaboration and cooperation? I want to see Nigerian channels, NTA, the channels, and other TV stations open offices in Accra. Well, what is international news? When all you get to cover or to, transmit is from what is coming from CNN or the BBC. What is more international than having boots on the ground, having your own correspondents, covering events in neighboring African countries? So I believe that we need to look at increasing the level of collaboration, because in unity there is strength. In unity there is strength. We think big, speak big grammar without doing anything practical on the ground. How difficult will it be that once every month there is a shuttle coming from Togo to Ghana for Ghanaian students to interact with their Togolese counterparts, and their embassies and consulates will share diplomatic missions that should serve as, the intermediaries between the peoples of these African countries. But do we do those? No, we don't. When citizens are even stranded, getting consular services becomes a problem. So show us on TV, not people coming from far off countries. Show us people coming from nearby countries, neighboring countries. Show us Togolese on TV. Show us Burkinabes and what they are doing and how we can collaborate with them. Show us Ivorians and what they are doing in their country. Show us Nigerians and what they are doing. Show us Beninois people and what they are doing. Show us Guinean people. Look at all the channels we have on DSTV. Look at all the channels we have on DSTV. How much local African content do we have? But look at these telenovelas. Look at these, lifestyle programs, the Kardashians. Like someone else, we are living someone else's dream. Show us how a regular family in Togo lives. Show us how it is to open a business in Togo. Whet our appetite to want to go there, start a business, start interacting with our fellow brothers and sisters, people who are African, people we share the same destiny and origin with, rather than showing us things from far off, unrealistic places. So every young man grows up, if you are from an Anglophone African country, you grow up based upon the kind of media you consume. You grow up thinking everything from the UK and the US is the best. If you are from Francophone Africa, you are shown only things from, France 24, France 24. The things you hear are only from Radio France Internationale, RFI, RFI, as we say in French. So you grow up thinking the best comes from Paris, when in fact the best can come from Abuja, when in fact the best can come from here in Accra, the best can come from Kigali, the best can come from Ouagadougou, the best can come from Lomé. Let's appreciate what we have and project Africa and create a synergy for this continent to rise again. We play second fiddle all the time. Africa has up to 54 countries. We don't have a permanent seat on the UN Security Council. How many countries are in Europe? Europe alone has 2 slots on the UN Security Council in terms of permanent membership. When you see anything, if it is a pair of shoes you are buying, you want to see made in Italy before you buy. What about made in Togo? What about made in the Gambia? Wouldn't it be nice to patronize our own? Before Africa can rise, we need to learn to appreciate what is happening at the regional level before we act globally. Whatever sector you find yourself in, start reading up. Sometimes, when you even ask somebody, what are the websites in a neighboring country, the person doesn't know. If you asked me, what is happening in Burkina Faso, nobody brings to me what is happening there. So I see the US as closer to me than a next door neighboring country. A next door country or a neighboring country like Burkina Faso. So let's start to change the psyche of the people. Let's regularly travel to these neighboring African countries. Find out business opportunities there are. It's a shame that fellow Africans can be killing others because of xenophobia. It's because we don't understand each other. We are facing an identity crisis. Right from the get-go, we are told in school, everything from the West is the best. Everything black is bad. Even when kids draw things in class, when they do painting, we associate our color with negativity. Everything black is bad. That is what we have grown to learn erroneously. So let's begin to do a change of heart and mindset and begin to appreciate things that are black and African and begin to collaborate with each other to create a synergy. Rwanda is doing fairly well. How much exchange of expertise happens between Rwanda and other countries? The only time we collaborate is when the white people say there is war in northern Mali, come together and go on a peacekeeping mission. Oyaya Jammeh says he's not going to relinquish his seat as president, so come together. The white folks have to tell us what to do. When they say set, we set. When they say move, we move. Even our currencies, we have to rely on them to print our currencies that are legal tender to us. Isn't it a shame? Why is Africa doing this to itself? So I leave you with this message, hoping that it can cause a little change of heart and change in mindset, that if Africa should rise, if Africa should ever rise, it will not be on the altar of pretending to act globally when we are weak on the domestic and regional level. Let's begin to collaborate at the student level, at the government level, some more. Already there's some collaboration. When you see on TV MOUs that are signed, how many times do you hear Nigeria has signed an MOU with Chad? How many times do you hear your government, our government in Ghana, is signing an MOU with Ivory Coast? All MOUs are with white folks. All high-level delegations that travel go to the white man's land. Sign MOUs with Togo. Sign MOUs with Benin. Show this on TV for us to see. Africa can be on its own. We've been tied to the umbilical cord of our colonial masters for quite too long, far too long. Where I am currently, just behind me is thick vegetation. I took a stroll. It's virgin land. And it rains consistently on this continent, for the most part. But something as basic as corned beef, you have to import from the white man's land. We import, staples from the white man's land. Isn't that a shame? When we have some of the most fertile and arable lands in the world. I leave you here and hoping that, and I hope that this helps. So pick up your phone, go onto your email, find out what somebody in your own sector in a neighboring African country is doing. There's WhatsApp. You don't even need to make calls. Let's form WhatsApp groups. If you are young engineers, find out what young engineers in Togo, in Nigeria, in Kenya are doing. Form groups. Let's form working professional groups. Let's explore job opportunities from across borders. Graduate unemployment. Why? Because the same people are chasing the same few jobs that don't exist. But when there is synergy, when there is collaboration, you may finish university in Ghana and not bother about the lack of jobs in Ghana. You can go to another African country and be comfortably employed there. Don't look like a stranger when you go to your brother's country, because a fellow African is your brother. A fellow African is your sister. We are blood brothers and sisters. But we feel comfortable being in London and Washington than we do when we go to neighboring African countries. Why should it be so? Why do we allow ourselves to be shackled? Our mentality itself has been shackled. Our thinking has been shackled. Thank you so much, and I hope we'll do things for the betterment of the African continent, because it's all we have. Thank you. Bye-bye.